Another day, another lawsuit in Dolton naming several police officers involving allegations of a wrongful death and excessive force. On April 21st, 2023, Timothy McDaniel Hall was shot and killed by Dolton police officers.
Officers responded to East 144th Place early this morning. There was a domestic call at an address there. Police said the suspect had a weapon and that officers opened fire out of self-defense.
One moment, Mr. Hall was sleeping in his gray Lincoln vehicle. The next moment, he's being struck by bullets multiple times, including a fatal shot to the back of the head. Let's get into it. Dolton doesn't have just a Tiffany Hayward problem. They have a policing problem. There's a long pattern of behavior from the Dolton Police Department. There's many cases of excessive force, incompetence, just overall dangerous behavior.
New cell phone video obtained by Eyewitness News shows the chaotic scene of a deadly crash in the suburbs, the end of a police chase that started in Calumet City and ended with a crash in Dolton. Tonight, one person is dead.
A family's desperate plea cried aloud outside the Dolton Police Department, where Darius Wilson spent his final moments alive. His fiancée, LaKendra Williams, speaking her grief while pregnant with their fourth child.
He was cooperative with them, so I don't understand how something like this happened at all. We planned for another baby in 3 months.
It was more so like, okay, well, can you come pick me up? Okay, well, come pick me up tomorrow when they release me.
But that day never came. Illinois State Police tell us they responded to the police station just after 11 that night. They say Wilson was found dead in his cell. Dolton police say Wilson took his own life. His family doesn't believe it.
I feel mad because my daddy wouldn't do this to himself.
Now they're gathering on what would have been Wilson's 30th birthday.
The newly released body cam video is both dramatic and disturbing and shows a Dolton police officer opening fire on 19-year-old Alexis Wilson.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Dolton police say both officers opened fire on Wilson. The shooting ended with the vehicle crashing into a nearby bike shop.
Less than 2 weeks ago, on a snowy Halloween afternoon, the arrest of a suburban woman on minor charges is raising questions about the protection of those who are mentally ill. The woman was taken into custody and put into a police vehicle.
I'm mentally ill. I'm on papers for being mentally ill. If you run my hand, I'm mentally ill.
What kind of mental illness do you have?
She told police she was bipolar and on medication.
It's my word against their word. It's always going to be like that. I'm never going to be right.
And things went downhill from there. She removed her shirt and wrapped it around her neck, tightening the shirt as if to simulate hanging. When one officer moved in to help the woman, he is seen to be held back by Dolton Deputy Police Chief Lewis Lacey.
I want you to do. I said, come back.
Nobody listen to me. Nobody listen to me.
She tried to choke herself out and she'll just pass out. She'll be fine.
I mean, just recently, we've seen that the situation with the wrongful death suit, now the village have to pay millions of dollars for. That $33.5 million verdict awarded to the families of both John Kyles and Dwayne Dunlap have been upheld. The jury found that Dolton police officers acted negligently during the high-speed chase, resulting in Kyle's death and Dunlap's severe injuries. The village attempts to overturn the verdict have been rejected both by a Cook County judge and the Illinois 1st District Appellate Court. The village of Dolton is facing significant financial challenges in paying this verdict, with only $10.5 million in insurance coverage. The interest on the judgment continues to accrue at $2 million annually. Attorneys for the victim's family have filed a petition seeking a court order to compel the village to pay, potentially by raising taxes if necessary. So this situation is going to affect everyone in this village. Then you have Tiffany Hayward, the mayor, being accused of financial mismanagement, contributing to the village inability to pay the judgment. There's allegations that Hayward is just misusing the village funds, like putting up posters and billboards showing herself. Maybe not the best way to spend the money right now, considering over $30 million needs to be paid. So you have a police force that some people think is extremely dangerous. You have the issues with Tiffany Hayward spending the money irresponsibly. And now there's just more and more lawsuits. There's even a lawsuit between the old lawyer and the current lawyer, or they're both current. I don't know.
Reports the dysfunction in Dolton has taken a new turn, with the new mayor's attorney now suing a lawyer who represents trustees for defamation. Attorney Delgado withdrew from representing the village in a number of cases earlier this year after trustees refused to pay his bills. Now he's suing the trustee's attorney, Bert Odelson, accusing him of making false statements that undermine his representation of Dolton. Odelson calls the lawsuit baseless and frivolous.
So the question remains, how can the village recover? How can they recover from this? Millions of dollars are getting sucked out of the village. How can they afford it? And now we have another lawsuit involving Mr. Hall. I want to show you some of the case right now. So this lawsuit was filed by the family of Timothy McDaniel Hall against the village of Dolton and names several police officers. Involves allegations of the wrongful death and excessive force. This happened last year where Timothy McDaniel Hall was shot and killed by Dolton police officers. As you can see, the officers right here, including Officer Lacey, which I'm sure you guys already know who he is if you've been checking out this channel. He has a long history of misconduct.
If she tries to choke herself out, then she'll just pass out. She'll be fine.
And also Officer Staples, I'm sure you've heard of her as well. So all of the officers that were named in this situation. Now, I'll say right now, from what I've seen in this case, they do not name the specific officer who fired the shots. The complaint only describes that multiple officers were involved and that there was a discussion among them of who would take the quote unquote kill shot. Before we get into that, let's go back to the beginning of this situation. At approximately 5:16 a.m., the defendant, Village of Dolton, through its police department, dispatched units to the home of Lakeisha Brooks in response to a call that father of the child was at the back of the residence. Defendant responding officers canvassed the home of Lakeisha Brooks, and other defendant Dolton Police Department units canvassed the rear of a residence. Defendant police officers observed an unknown male sleeping in a gray Lincoln vehicle in the rear of the residence. And that unknown male in the gray Lincoln vehicle was Timothy Hall. The defendant responding officers went back to the house to meet with other defendant Dolton Police Department units and observed the vehicle with its engine running and its headlights off. Defendant Dolton Police Department units disabled the vehicle prior to making contact with Timothy McDaniel Hall. After the car was immobilized, a discussion amongst defendant police department officers occurred to who was going to shoot and take the kill shot of Timothy McDaniel Hall. Defendant responding officers shot through the rear driver's side window, striking Timothy McDaniel Hall once through the back of the head and several times throughout his body, killing him. At the time defendant officers shot and killed Timothy McDaniel Hall, he posed no imminent threat of great bodily harm nor death to such officers. So you can see right here that there's several counts. Count 1, wrongful death act. So the wrongful death, excessive force, this lawsuit asserts that the officers used excessive force resulting in Hall's death, which was unwarranted given that he posed no threat. Again, this is what they're saying. They're the ones that are doing the lawsuit against the Village of Dolton Police Department. The wrongful death claim is brought under Illinois Wrongful Death Act. And the next claim, Survival Act. Again, it's excessive force. The claim holds that Hall endured pain and suffering prior to his death due to the officer's actions, warranting damages under the Illinois Survival Act. The count 3, wrongful death battery. The plaintiff argues that the officer's actions amounted to battery, which led to Hall's death, causing further emotional and financial losses to his family. Count 4, Survival Act battery, is similar to excessive force claim. The count seeks damages for the pain and suffering Hall experienced before his death due to the battery. And this is count 5, respondent superior wrongful death. So this doctrine is invoked to hold the Village of Dolton accountable for the actions of its officers, arguing that their conduct occurred within the scope of their employment, obviously because they were working at the offices, they were on duty at the time, thereby making the village liable for wrongful death. And then the 6th count, just count, mirrors the wrongful death claim, but focuses on the pain and suffering Hall endured prior to his death. So what does this mean? If this is successful, and again, I haven't seen any kind of body cam footage. I don't know if this story was covered other than the fact that it happened last year. So obviously we don't have all the information, but the problem is the pattern of behavior of the Dolton Police Department and the countless charges of death and excessive force and incompetence. It doesn't look great for the Village of Dolton. If successful, this case can result in more substantial financial liability for the Village of Dolton, which I think they probably can't even handle at this point. They already got to figure out how to pay that $30 million lawsuit. What happened if this lawsuit goes in the same direction? the alleged abuse of power by law enforcement officers and at this point the government. It just brings more and more problems for everybody involved. How many lawsuits can one village sustain? I guess we'll be dealing with that right now. And when more information comes out, we'll definitely talk about it. So thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.